Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another sacred channeling here on Susan Dawn Ascension Connections. There is a lot to talk about. There is a lot to uncover. There is a lot to bring forth, especially with regards to the past couple of weeks and this cosmic energy. I'm not quite sure where to begin, but God just said, Susan, just start talking, and I am very good at that. So I'm just going to trust that and see what comes through. I'm going to begin with a couple of weeks ago and what I experienced on my trip. As some of you know, I took a little bit of a trip. It was just an overnight. I expected it to be longer, but the whole trip, it was just literally going with the flow. I've been wanting to do a bit of a vacation, just a little bit of a getaway to really just renew myself, restore my energy, just feel peaceful. I've been feeling a lot of peace within, a lot of that union energy within, and I just really wanted to embrace that. But I couldn't figure out where I wanted to go. And then a couple of weeks ago, I clicked on an ad and I found myself booking for an inn up in Ithaca, New York. It's where a friend and I had wanted to meet up and go and travel to, and I decided, you know what, I just need this just for myself. So it was very interesting because it wasn't the trip that I wanted, it was the trip that I needed. And I recounted everything on my blog. You can find it on my social media platforms with pictures, etc. The link to my blog or on my website is down below if you guys want to check that out. I'm not going to recount that here. I am going to recount, like I said, that it was not what I wanted, but it was what I needed. What I experienced was resistance and surrender, and resistance and surrender, and resistance and surrender. And the minute I began to surrender and not be in that place of resistance was the minute that I just felt, okay, I know why I'm here. I know what this experience is for. It was really quite remarkable. The more I went with the flow of my trip, it was unplanned. You know, I knew what I wanted to see, I knew what I wanted to do, but I just allowed myself the joy of being very present and being in the moment, and that flexibility and adaptability of just not knowing what was going to come next, not needing to control everything, having that plan in mind, but letting it just flow. There was so much joy and so much magic from the people that I met and talked to because, again, apparently I just can talk to anybody. Did not know that about myself. I knew that a little bit about myself, but I was meeting people on the trails. I was meeting people and just talking to people at the waterfalls. I was talking to the waitress at the restaurant, the person who runs the inn, and every interaction just felt like a connection. Every interaction just felt magical. And it really felt like, yes, this is why we're here. We are here for relationships. We are here for connections. We are here for each other. And I feel like I've always known that, but I feel like that truly integrated and anchored in. You know, with the business that I formed, Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections, Susan Dawn Ascension Connections was just supposed to be a placeholder. I was called to start my YouTube channel, so I did, and I didn't know what I wanted to call it, but it just kind of flourished from there. I just let my intuition guide me, and it felt like that's what it was meant to be. And I began to realize that it's not just about relationships with a romantic partner, and it's not just about relationships with ourselves, but it's our relationship with everything. And that's what my business has become. That's what Susan Dawn Ascension Connections is all about. It's this other facet of the spiritual connection. It's about our relationship with money. It's about our relationship with our health. It's about our relationship with our family, our friends, the universe, and world around us. Relationships and connections are everywhere and within everything, and that's wherein we discover that unity consciousness. That is what is so beautiful about unity consciousness. It is the connections to God's source, the connections to ourselves, the connections to each other. And so to really see that and experience that firsthand was beautiful. That really anchored in for me because I was recognizing my willingness to step out of my comfort zone. You know, in the past, I would have been not wanting to speak up because of my own social anxiety or because, you know, is this person going to think I'm weird? Is this person going to think that I'm this or that? Or what if this doesn't work out? What if this doesn't work out? You know, I had my own anxieties over the years. But the more I embrace my true authenticity on this journey, the more I turn inward and connect deeply to myself, it's like I'm not looking at the outside in anymore. I'm looking from the inside out, and that makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. And especially when I was doing my traveling, because I would go to all these state parks to see these waterfalls. And I would say, well, I don't know how to get here. Well, I'll figure it out. And there was always this little tinge of anxiety of going somewhere new, going somewhere unknown, right? Traveling the path less traveled. But I would overcome that fear. I would take that action to overcome that fear. I would sit with myself for just a split second and say, Susan, what is it that you're really afraid of? Oh, you're afraid of the unknown. Well, in a minute, it's not going to be so unknown anymore. In a minute, it's going to be a new adventure, an exciting adventure. And it was. And the minute that I surrendered that fear and just took action and moved forward, it was magic unlocked, joy unlocked, love unlocked. And again, I met so many beautiful people, including somebody from my hometown, just by saying, hey, is the waterfall closed up ahead? Because there was construction. And they said, yes. Yeah. So we walked back together. I said, where are you from? And they said where they're from. And it was my hometown. And so we ended up talking about hockey in the parking lot for a good 10 minutes. And I said, if you ever see me on the concourse at the arena, say hi. It was just a beautiful, beautiful interaction. And it's that kind of simplicity that I love so much. It seems like such a simple, nondescript, and mundane interaction and moment, but it means so much. So the more that we surrender, the more that we allow ourselves to surrender, the more beauty just really opens up to us because we're not in resistance to ourselves. There was another thing that occurred to me as I was driving up there. It was the further along I went, I felt the deeper in my heart I was connecting and the more truth I was receiving. When it comes to my sacred partner, I felt him with me the whole time. And that's what I had been feeling for the past several weeks, just this complete surrender, this complete union. And it's interesting because that is the phrase that I've been getting, complete surrender. It's not needing to know how this turns out. It's not needing to know how this unfolds. It's not needing to be in a physical relationship or not needing to actually have any interaction because he's already within me. We've learned and grown so much together on this journey, individually and together, especially for my counterpart and I. We were really in physical proximity for our entire journey, healing together, learning together, triggering each other. There was so much that was experienced. And that caused its own cycles. It caused its own karma. It caused its own pain patterns. And that's what I have been healing over the past several months, the past year, so to speak. But there also was a tremendous amount of healing from that surrendering the past. And it really felt like there was a closing of the door on the past. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about sacred partners in a moment. Going back to my trip, I was experiencing a lot of what I like to call full circle moments. And I talked a little bit about this in the last sacred channeling. I think it was the last sacred channeling. One of the readings I had done, or one of the channelings I had done, I had talked a little bit about that because it really felt like that was cropping up again. Energy from the past situations that felt familiar coming back around for that closure. I experienced that when I was helping somebody who was in the hospital. I have my own really traumatic experiences in the hospital. So for me to be in the hospital and to have found my peace and to be able to ground that and center that without experiencing my trauma again, brought it back around as a full circle moment, me being there for others as well as me being in the hospital myself. When I was at the inn, again, it was exactly what I needed. Not what I wanted particularly, but it was exactly what I needed. It was interesting because it was a very rustic inn overlooking the lake. And it really reminded me with the countryside and with the decor. It was French decor. The way it was all set up, it reminded me of the inn that I stayed at for a month when I was in France back in 2008. Now, I haven't talked about that trip before, but that I realized over the course of this journey was my official initial awakening. I never had, a real jolt as far as awakening, because I've always been pretty spiritual, taking spiritual development courses, just kind of renouncing my religion and exploring humanity, exploring philosophy, exploring spirituality. So I never really had that, real jolt into spirituality. But that trip was my spiritual awakening. It was the first time that I was taking a trip by myself. It was the first time that I was overseas by myself. I'd gone overseas before, but it was the first time that I was navigating a foreign country by myself for a month. And I was terrified. I must have called home 100 times crying because I missed flights. I missed my train connection. I missed my ride up the mountain to the inn. And I had to navigate all of it. And I remember calling my parents, and they're like, "What do you want us to do? Like, we're back home. What do you want us to do?" And I said, "Nothing. Like, there's nothing I need you to do. I just need you to comfort me while I figure this out. I will figure this out." But I needed to cry and get it out. That had always been my initial reaction. Okay, let me cry. Let me get the emotions out. Let me release it, and then I will kick into taking care of myself mode and figure it out. And I did. I always did. But it was funny because that's what it was. It was, oh my gosh, I was homesick. I was anxious. This was before I had gotten physically sick with Lyme disease. This was back in 2008. This was, oh my gosh. They even, the owner of the inn, I was having such a hard time. She had me go and see a Reiki master who was in a little, RV mobile home in the middle of the woods somewhere, who was incredible. And that was really my first reading, I think it was. He was a medium, he was a Reiki healer, and it really activated my healing in that way, my own internal healing. And when I came home, I was, taking meditation courses and psychic development courses, and really I had already been in the process of this self-development. I spent years on my personal blogs, talking about self-development and self-improvement. It's always been something that interested me, and growing and expanding within myself. That kicked up a notch even more with regards to the spiritual aspect. So I say all that because that trip, even though I went on a writer's retreat, I was a part of a barter program. So for my stay, I had to work. I was painting the cellar. It was the middle of November, so it was freezing cold. I was helping to do the composting in the garden, the cliffside garden. I was almost every day, we were rolling logs down a mountain for firewood and bringing the firewood in. So it was manual labor. It was really rough. I went through quite an experience there, but when I look back on that, it was one of the best experiences of my life. As challenging as it was in the moment, it was one of the best experiences of my life because I grew so much and it woke me up so much. My ascension journey 5 years ago, when I was activated meeting my sacred partner, different level of consciousness, awakening on a different level. Like I say, ascension is a whole different ball game, but I was already going through that awakening process. So when I was at this inn back in last week up in New York, the ambiance, the feeling, the resistance, the feeling, I don't know if this is going to work out, I don't know if I want to be here, was, I realized, a full circle moment. It was closing out that period of my life, that past period of my life. And when the owner of the inn came home and she and I ended up talking and she was making dinner for me, I realized what I was there for. It was to connect with her one-on-one for a number of different reasons. But the minute that I mentioned that I was a tarot reader, we connected instantly about philosophy and life and spirituality. And it was a beautiful, beautiful connection. And that's what it was all for. It was for connection. Even when I was at the inn back in 2008, it was all about connection, the people that I was there with. I didn't appreciate it quite as much back then as I would now because of the experiences that I was having and my own immaturity, my own inexperience. I was in my 20s at that time. I was young. But I can see what it was all for now. And so I was experiencing this kind of full circle moment of that period in my life closing out. And what we've been channeling is we are experiencing a lot of those full circle moments, especially where there was pain, where there was trauma, where there was unease, where there were patterns that were repeating. We're closing out those cycles. For many of us, 2012 is a highlighted year. 2012 is when I was diagnosed with illness. 2012 is when a lot of people were having their own experiences, whether it was accidents or some kind of situation or circumstance that was surprising or shocking or maybe even undesirable, but those were catalysts for initial awakening. And I'm using that term, initial awakening. And so what we've been doing is we've been closing out those cycles, closing out those periods. A lot has been closing out at once. We're closing out that major cycle from 2012 on, and we're closing out some cycles, little smaller cycles, smaller karmic cycles. They're saying they're correcting me from the past couple of months and the past couple of years. So it really depends on. It's almost like it's what they're bringing me is it's all happening at once. We're closing out all these cycles at once, and it's almost like one after the other. So you close one cycle, and you're realizing that you're closing out other cycles as well. So it's not like you're closing out the cycle from 2012 and then you're done. It's all this. These cycles have to close because it's all these timelines are converging on the present moment. The present moment is what there is right now. And so all these timelines are really converging on this present moment. So we're closing out all these little cycles that had still been active through our healing. Through our healing is what is closing out those cycles because we're shifting patterns, because we are changing the programming, because we are becoming more aware and bringing it up from our subconscious into our conscious mind. Because we are shifting consciousness, there is so much that is closing out. So that being said, that's where this complete surrender is really coming in, because we are embodying that surrender, because we are embodying our own soul self, our sacred truth, because we are embodying not just that faith, but we are embodying the God source within us. And that's where surrender lies. It is divine surrender. That is where surrender remains. So that being said, let's bring it back to sacred partners. Okay, I had to take a little bit of a break. This video was split into two parts. We're bringing it back to sacred partners now. I am close to bookings in July so that I can take care of my health and well-being, so I can nurture myself and do a little bit of self-care. I've been extremely tired. So we are going to be coming back after I renew my energy. All this work, especially being a light worker, especially our own ascension, takes a lot of energy. So bear with me, please. Okay, we are bringing it back to sacred partners. What we've been experiencing as I've been channeling over on my main channel, Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections, is there has been a lot of that beginning and a lot of that ending kind of energy coming through. And it's not just, like I was saying, it's not just, there's an ending and it's done, and then there's a beginning. There is this transitionary energy. Because energy is constantly flowing. So it's not just bam, it's done, here's the new. It's a flow. It's a residual energy that aligns until the new is really brought in. And what they were showing me was this, like a jetliner. And what happens is there's the takeoff, and then there's the destination. And between the takeoff and the destination, there's a lot of energy and a lot of movement that happens. But that movement doesn't stop. And that's what happens with endings and beginnings, destruction and creation. So that's what we've been experiencing on our journey. And they keep bringing me back to Journey's End, the channeling that I did a year ago. Last spring was the first video here on this channel. Really go check that out. I'll put it in the description box. We have been channeling that. It is the end of one phase of our journey where it was all about the healing. We're constantly going to be healing, but that initial phase of healing where we're doing the energy work, where we're doing the shadow work, where we're doing the inner child healing, where we're going deep into the underworld of ourselves truly, where we are reconnecting with the God source within us. That phase is over, and now it's about embodiment, or what I like to call higher heart ascension. So we've been moving into this energy, going through this transitionary energy. We might have felt like we were in a little bit of an in-between, might have experienced a lot of confusion around, well, what does this mean for my journey? Where are we headed, especially when it comes to sacred partners? But this is where we're headed. We are headed into the new. And again, just like on my own journey, it was like, I don't know where I'm going, but God just kept saying, trust, allow, and take action. Trust, allow, and take action. Just take that guided action. Just keep following your intuition. Just keep following your heart. Just keep following your desires. So it's hard for me to put into words. I feel like I'll be able to do it better later down the line once I have more clarity and reflection. But clarity is coming in more and more every day. It's not something that I'm able to fully put into words. Everybody's going to be experiencing this a little bit differently. And I think that's where it gets a little bit confusing because it is a different experience within collective energy. I had a client who is a beautiful member of this community, who has been a long-term member of this community, email me, and she was able to articulate it in a much better way. She's given me permission to share it. Before I do want to say the energy that we've been receiving is this one of reset. Speaking for myself, and I know this is shared energy as well, when I think about my connection, again, I've been feeling this union within myself, this peace, this harmony, this feeling of love and gratitude. Sometimes I flip-flop. Sometimes, as I'm only human, I look at the evidence and I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand this, But when I really tune into my heart and just allow and embody this journey specifically, I feel the unfolding. I feel the love, and that's what that union energy is. It's that wholeness within the self. It's that union within the self. It's feeling the masculine and the feminine energy at one. And because we are on the sacred path, we are one soul in two bodies. If you're, talking about twin flame or sacred partner or divine counterpart, whatever label it is that you want to use. I don't like the labels. I use the labels to kind of discern between different energetic connections. But use whatever feels right to you. Trust what you feel energetically. So when I am feeling into my connection, I feel so at ease and at home. Now, I still have stuff that I'm working through from the human side, from the physical form and the physical experience. There's still stuff that is worked through. But within the soul self, in the very center of my being, it feels nothing but peace and nothing but love and nothing but wholeness. There is stability there. There is security there. There is my own masculine container has found itself. And so that's allowing my feminine energy to flow much more freely, including being vulnerable. I just went through something this past week where I realized that even though it's easy for me to be vulnerable with others and ask others, for my needs to be met, as far as like needing something at a restaurant or needing something at the grocery store or asking my family or friends for support, when it comes to my most intimate partners, especially this relationship, it's very, very difficult for me to be vulnerable and ask for that emotional support. I've taken care of myself for so long that it's very difficult for me to ask for that emotional support, especially in my connection, it felt like that emotional support on that side was shut down. But that's where I learned how to go within and find that strength within my own masculine energy. And balance that out with my feminine energy, to allow my feminine energy through my own inner masculine to express herself, to have her emotional needs received and met and heard. So through this experience, I learned about my own inner masculine and inner feminine energy and balancing that out in beautiful union. So when it comes to my divine counterpart, remember, one soul, two embodiments, two separate experiences, and then you come together and it's like accelerated expansion and accelerated sharing and harmony and peace once you go through your own journeys, your own experiences. But it is a shared energy field. It is a shared soul in one essence, to put it in the most basic of terms. It's a little bit more complicated than that, as you guys know, but in the most basic of terms. But on the outside, it can look a little bit difficult. On the outside, it can look a little bit different than what you're feeling on the inside, and that's where a lot of the confusion tends to come in. And that's where it's a little bit difficult to articulate. So I have been feeling this inner peace, this inner union, and just allowing myself to feel the love for my counterpart and receive the love from my counterpart. I reached a place of complete surrender. There's that phrase again, that complete surrender, where I said, you know what? I'm not denying my feelings anymore. I'm not denying what I know intuitively this connection is. I know without a shadow of a doubt that he is my ascension partner, my catalyst partner, my twin flame. Now, what does that mean as far as a physical relationship? I don't know. I don't know, because that path is still being written by both of us. Not denying my own power, not denying his free will. When I say my power, I mean my choices, my desires, my goals, my dreams, and his free will for what it is that he wants to experience as well. Because we're always together. You're always feeling that love. You're always feeling that energy. And I had really anchored into this place. Again, a little bit of wobbles there, but it's anchoring in this place where it doesn't matter if we're together. It doesn't matter if we're in relationship or not. He could be on the far reaches of the world, and I would still feel that love, allowing myself to feel love for him, allowing myself to receive that love from him, because I have no doubt anymore. I used to, because I was looking at the evidence, right? I was looking at the physical. So I'd be like, does he love me? Does he not love me? What the hell is this connection? A lot of that confusion that I feel a lot of the divine masculines are actually experiencing now. As they're awakening and as they're recognizing their divine feminine within themselves and their counterparts. But we went through this ourselves, divine feminines. I don't have any doubt whatsoever anymore the love that is felt between us, including the love that I receive from him. The difference is I'm allowing myself to receive that love without needing anything, without expectation of anything. Does that mean physical relationship? Nope. Does that mean that I am accepting of situations that aren't aligned to my values, that aren't honoring of me? Absolutely not. So that is the difference. In the past, I was abandoning myself for connection because the connection felt so strong. And not just that the connection felt so strong, but it was, as divine feminines, we understand this connection on a different level. And so it's almost like we were just like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this connection coming to pass? If we're sacred partners, if we love each other so dearly, why aren't we working together? Why aren't we walking this earth together, as lovers? And I'm not talking in the strictly sexual sense of what lovers tend to be, but in the divine counterpart sense, in the honoring of each other, in the supporting of each other, in the Mary Magdalene, Jesus, Isis and Osiris energy, that sacred union. But it's because there's more. There's still more that is unfolding. And I've talked about this in a lot of the separation videos and separation channelings in the past year that we have done here on the channel. So you can feel free to go back through those as well. There's still more that is unfolding for the conscious masculine and the conscious feminine, especially with regards to self-discovery, honoring, no longer abandoning herself, no longer betraying herself, and really learning how to anchor that in and embody this new feminine energy. We've channeled that as well. So there feels like there's been this kind of a reset for these counterparts. For myself, it very much feels like I don't know who my divine masculine is anymore, in the sense that he feels almost like a stranger. Not in a bad way, but if I, like, his energy is so familiar, his energy is still here, his energy is what I've always truly connected with, but I've always been with him, well, for the most part, in physical proximity. It's that physical proximity, that person, that embodiment that feels a little bit unfamiliar right now. And it's because of the growth that I've done. I've shifted my frequency so much, my consciousness, my vibration so much, that the wounded aspect of me is no longer in that place where it is engaging or corresponding with the wounded aspect of him. Similarly, he's going through his own transformation where the wounded aspect of him is no longer engaging with the wounded aspect of myself, the projections, the pain patterns, where we were repeating traumas or triggering traumas in each other. So there's been this separation, for lack of a better word. There's been this individual journey that we're going on, because it's not just alignment, although that plays a huge part. It's because there's been this reset. And that reset is still unfolding. It's going to look a little bit different for everybody. So I want to clarify what I just channeled there. It's not so much that he is a stranger. It's not so much that he feels unfamiliar, because again, his energy is always familiar. His energy is always like home. His energy is always love. Just as yours is, that's what you guys are together. You are love, you are peace, you are harmony. But when you were triggering each other, you were projecting your pain, you were projecting your patterns, your programming, your traumas onto each other. And so that's what made it feel like less than. That's what made it feel like lack. That's what made it feel like more pain, right? And so that's part of what had to close out. Your own karmic cycle that you had created together within your connection had to be completed as well. So it's almost like, because of your transformations, both of you going through your transformations, it's like you might feel like a stranger to each other. That's this reset that's happening. And so it might feel like you don't know each other. It might feel like you have to get to know each other again. But it's not that you don't know each other in the, I don't want to know them. It's an exciting energy. It's a, who are you? Who are you now? Learning to do things differently, learning to love differently, learning to see differently, different perspectives, which comes from that shift into higher consciousness. So with this reset, again, I keep using that word because that's what it really feels like. It feels like this reset for both of you. And it's going to play out again in a number of different ways, but this reset really feels like new beginnings for both of you. It's a really interesting energy. Again, it can be a little bit confusing, but it's a really interesting energy. It's, again, like a full circle thing, like you're coming back around to each other. For myself, I had this feeling of deja vu, for lack of a better word. When we had a conversation, it felt like it was a very casual conversation, just a very casual, playful kind of exchange and engagement, but it felt like the kind of conversation we had before we were activated, before that first date 5 years ago, when basically we were activated to Ascension. I've shared that story, and I'll share it again someday if you guys want to hear it. But when we were activated to Ascension, that night that we went for coffee, and I turned around at the diner and we looked at each other in the eye, and it just was that feeling of home and familiarity and just love. And even though we've known each other for so many years, I'd never looked at him that way. Pretty sure he hadn't looked at me that way. But it was just this recognition. And that's what this connection is truly all about. It's that recognition of the soul of each other. And then your egos get in the way, and all the patterns flare up, and you start projecting, and all this stuff comes up to be cleared and healed. And that was the first phase of our journey. But it really felt like I had this feeling of deja vu, of going back to the beginning again, a full circle moment, where it was like we were really just playful with each other, and just sharing some little bits and pieces of conversation, some memes and some music, and it wasn't anything really special, but it felt like we were back to the beginning, almost like starting to get to know each other again, starting to just have playful conversations and build the foundation of friendship again. Even though we have been through 5 years of memories, beautiful memories, some painful memories, we have been through 5 years together, even living together for a year. It felt like that was all washed away, not in a negative sense, but almost as if memory doesn't exist anymore, almost as if all there was is now, and we're back to the beginning in a beautiful sense. So where is that heading? I don't know. But I'm saying that because that's the reset. That's the full circle moment. That is the closure, the ending to the beginning, the destruction to the creation that we've been experiencing. There's a higher purpose for everything that we've been experiencing. Sometimes it's just really hard to see. So it's going to unfold for everybody in a little bit of a different way. And like we've been channeling over on Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections for a while now, it seems like there's a little bit of a split in the collective. For some, and I'm speaking to the divine feminines because the divine masculines are going to be experiencing this differently too, but I'm speaking to the divine feminines. Divine feminines are experiencing this connection in an interesting way. I don't know how else to put this. For some, the person, you're receiving clarity that the person who you thought was your divine masculine either isn't your divine masculine or is your divine masculine, but they are not matching the frequency that you're at. And so you are moving on and surrendering your journey into a new phase of your own life, your own journey. You're moving into higher level relationships, soulmates coming in. For some of you, it might even be a new conscious masculine energy. What I like to call the universal conscious masculine energy is coming in. For others, it is you moving into a more individual path of your journey, where you are just not waiting. In a way, you're holding space, but holding space has this energy of waiting. You are just allowing yourself to follow where you're being led. Your mission, your careers, your dreams, your life. So for many of us, there is the split. For some of us, the masculine who you thought was your masculine still is your masculine. They're going through their own transformation, but at the same time, you are still going through your own path. You're still kind of in this separated energy. Remember, separation is an illusion. You're always together. You're always in union. You're always as one. It's the physical nature of it, though. So you're kind of going on your own, you're kind of still pursuing your own path, and you are letting this unfold. And whether this is new romantic relationships that are coming in, to learn from those relationships as your divine masculine is going through their transformation, or whether this is a conscious masculine that is coming in, not to replace your person, but because they are that conscious masculine to match that higher frequency. It's coming up as a number of different paths, a number of different ways. And the importance is to release the attachment to the person, release the attachment to the energy, and just feel the union within. So it's a little bit confusing and it's a little bit triggering as well because especially with the attachment that we've all had to this journey, there's a lot of surrender that is necessary now. Allow yourself to work through it. Don't force it. Don't force this energy. If this is not where you are right now, then just allow yourself to work through whatever it is that you're working through, wherever it is that you are on your journey, and just allow it to become a process of unfolding. Just allow your journey to unfold. Again, we're all part of a collective, but we're all in different paths. It's going to look different for all of us. Okay, so I want to quickly read because she was able to articulate it much better than I want to read the email from my client. She said, I once believed this was my fairy tale, my happily ever after, because after all the BS I've lived through in life, I deserve more. I understand that I must learn to love myself more. My life isn't just about surviving all the trauma, but it is now about living. Lots of memories of the breakup and the events leading up after have been surfacing for me. She says that on her drive she received a download from a song with the lyrics, I think you deserve better than me after all the lies I made you believe. And she found herself saying out loud, no, I deserve better from you. It feels, I'm going to just say something about this for a minute. I think that we have all really experienced this. She says that she has been feeling like she's been accepting and surrendering, so much so that she's been questioning on her journey. She understands that this person was put into her life for lessons and that there was a purpose. This journey, we are made to believe, or we do believe, that it is a love story. And for all purposes, it really is. It is. It teaches us so much about unconditional love, especially unconditional love for ourselves and for God's source, connection to others. And you do have unconditional love for your person. You can't have that union within yourself without that unconditional love for yourself. And you can't have that union with another without unconditional love for them. That's where we're releasing that attachment. That's where we release the outcome. That is what unconditional love truly is. I don't need anything from you. I don't have any expectations from you. Now, in a relationship, you have needs that need to be met. But when you are in union with yourself, you're able to approach a relationship in a healthy and whole way. And your person, hopefully, in a healthy, committed relationship, is able to do the same. Approach the relationship in a healthy and whole way so that you're able to come together and support each other, so that you're both working on the garden together. You're not focused on one corner of the garden. You have your corner, they have their corner, but you tend to the garden together. Neither are neglected, neither are abandoned, neither are rejected. You are working in harmony together. That's really important to understand. So, having those healthy boundaries and asserting and expressing what it is that you desire and what it is that you deserve in connection with yourself and with others is extremely, extremely important. So, yes, this journey is about love, but this journey, first and foremost, is about your growth, expansion, and ascension. And relationships are our greatest mirror, relationships are our greatest reflection. She continues, "It feels like every time I feel like I'm doing good, something triggers me. But I am thankful it is not as painful as it once was." That's the healing, that's the learning. "I'm also very thankful that I'm working through this. In the past, I would have found another way to fill the void, the hurt. But this time, I'm remaining single and working hard on learning to depend on myself, to be better for myself and my family." For some, you've been healing codependency, where you are learning how to find that wholeness on your own, feel that lack energy on your own, where you realize that you're not lacking anything at all. Where you were once reaching out to somebody else to fill anything that you felt you were lacking, you are filling up your own cup. For others, myself included, I was in a very hyper independent state, to the point where I was, like I said before, really having a hard time being vulnerable and asking for my emotional needs to be met, really asking for that emotional support, really having a hard time letting down that guard. As vulnerable as I am, and as easy it is for me to speak to thousands of you guys, and to open my heart, it's very difficult one-on-one in intimate relationships with me, and that's what I've really been learning, because it's been very difficult for me to trust. There have been some trust issues in my relationship with my counterpart. There have been trust issues in my relationship in other dynamics and other relationships in my past. So that is what I've been learning as well, is to let down the guard. So it's going to, relate to people in many different ways. She goes on to say, "I love him and he holds a special place in my heart, but I don't want him back under the same passiveness." It's because you have shifted frequency, you have shifted consciousness, you have healed those wounds, recognized and brought to awareness those wounds, and so you don't want to play them out anymore. You don't want to repeat those cycles or repeat those patterns. That is the ascended version of yourself. You've shifted into a new version of yourself. You also see that there are competing goals, and that he just doesn't seem to want to be a part of that. So for now, as difficult as it is to say, I must travel alone. And then she says, "I can't thank you enough for helping me through this process. It became about clarity. I was confused. Now when I'm listening to the messages coming forth, it means something different. I miss the romance readings, but I know this is about me." So yes, it is about love and relationships, but it's relationships for our own soul growth. So we're experiencing this shift on our journey in a number of different ways. And it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, even though we're part of this collective energy. Again, how it unfolds still remains to be seen. It's going to be different for everybody. For some, it's their divine masculine who is rising, who is transforming, who is changing. For others, they're just not there. And so another universal conscious masculine or high level soulmate is coming in to match that energy if you desire partnership and relationship, and family and all that stuff, to meet you, because your dreams are worthy. Do not negate yourself. Do not hold yourself back and make yourself small. Don't forget your dreams. Don't forget your path. We are all meant to be walking our own paths. With these sacred partners, you have a path, and you're meant to be walking your path, and they're walking theirs, and someday you will converge. That could be a day from now, it could be a week from now, it could be a month from now, it could be a year from now. But that's where you allow it to unfold, and that's where you trust the divine surrender and the divine process. All right, you guys, that is going to be it for today. I am sending you so much love and so much light, and we'll see you soon.